Let's go straight across now to Dr. Volker Stanzel with us on the broadcast for more on all of this. Thanks very much for being here. I have to begin by asking you for your assessment of what you think is Russia's strategy at this point, with the Kremlin delaying peace negotiations. It is preparing for that massive summer offensive at a time when there is that push for peace, and the U.S. Secretary of State also believing that Moscow may present ceasefire terms within days.
Yes, thanks for having me. Well, first of all, I think if you put yourself in Russia's shoes, it is quite understandable that Russia is preparing this kind of summer offensive. Sorry. After all, the war is already going on since 3 years. Russia has initially won about 1/5 of the territory of Ukraine, but it's not making headway since. So it is in a conundrum how to move on. Either by going into actual peace negotiations or in going head-on into more fighting. Of course, it must prepare a summer offensive in case the peace negotiations do not come to a final settlement. So I think that is what is to be expected. And the same is true, of course, for the Ukrainian army. You heard that 49,000 male Ukrainians were caught at Ukrainian borders when they tried to desert from the army, which is quite understandable considering the situation there. So the Ukraine also must prepare for a more intense battle. But the other side that we're talking about is possible peace negotiations. Now, so far, Putin hasn't said anything that has allowed us the conclusion that he's ready to go into negotiations from a point of view of two equal partners discussing how to reach a settlement. Instead, not only Putin, but his people, Lavrov and others, his spokespersons, have always underlined that, first of all, Ukraine has to confirm that it is ready to give up those parts of Ukraine that are being occupied by Russia now. And secondly, that they accept that Zelensky is not a legitimate interlocutor and his government is not a legitimate government. As long as Ukraine accepts these two conditions, then Russia is ready to talk about peace. But of course, what kind of peace would it be? It would be a capitulation. Now, the point we're looking at, all of us presently, is what actually was the agreement reached between Putin and Trump when they had their 2-hour-long telephone conversation.
Right.
Putin afterwards sort of repeated what I just said, and so did Trump, who said, now everybody is going back to the negotiation table. Trump, will have nothing to do with it, but maybe the Pope.
Right. I also want to ask you for your perspectives on the role of America at this point. Also, interestingly, U.S. President Donald Trump downplaying concerns about Russia's alleged military buildup near Finland and Norway. Of course, this comes after media reports that Russia was building a military base on the Russian-Finnish border and boosting its military presence along the borders there.
Exactly. So it shows that Trump actually has not reached his goal, which is brokering peace. And so he's trying to get out of the whole game. That is what his statement amounts to. And the reason for that is that Putin has two strong cards in his hands. One is the temptation by offering Trump a good economic relationship trade relationship between the two countries, something that Trump has confirmed. And secondly, of course, there is what you just mentioned. There is a kind of threat from Russia, which is getting much more active in the Arctic waters, and not alone, but also with China. And this, of course, is extremely worrying from a strategic point of view for the United States. So it is quite understandable that Trump doesn't want to get into the nitty-gritty of negotiating between the two parties who have not found a way towards peace so far, because he realizes that he won't be able to find that way either. He will leave things to the Europeans who have acted already. As you are aware, they have decided on the 17th sanctions package against Russia.
Right.
He will leave it to the Europeans and, of course, to the Ukrainians, who are hit worst of all.
All right. We're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.